Welcome to Uncle Jimmy's podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, family. Today we're sitting down with a young woman who is carrying more than most people twice her age. And she's doing it with fire, grace, and poetry in her veins. Meg Sullivan is a full-time college student, full-time worker, a first-time author pouring her heart into a book of poems about grief, and one of the most loyal, fierce mental health advocates I've ever met. She's lived with bipolar disorder herself, and she watched her own dad battle mental health until it took him. Today, she's here to open the door on the raw, real story most families whisper about in the dark. The day a diagnosis changes everything, the way bipolar ripples through a home, and how a daughter finds her voice while grieving the father she lost to mental health. Megan, you're proof that even when life hands you heavy, you can still stand up, write it down, speak it out, and light the way for everyone else who's walking the same road. So pull up a chair, the family's here. We've got you and we're listening with open hearts. Welcome to Uncle Jimmy's podcast, Megan.
Hello.
What's going on? Welcome back.
I know, it's been a long time.
Too long as I like to say. So, Megan, right? You were living with bipolar yourself while watching your dad battle mental health. What was the moment you realized this just isn't his fight? It's in my blood, too.
I think just because I'm still at such a young age, and as unfortunate as it sounds, I think my realization was after he committed suicide. You know, it kind of hits you when someone that close to you is battling mental health, and mental health is such a silent suffering that that moment of realization was after he was already gone.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because you go through life, right? And it's a struggle. It can be bills. It can be, for you, college, a full-time job, keeping yourself busy, trying to have an active personal life, right? And have fun. And you're trying to juggle all that while having bipolar yourself, right? So you lose your dad. And like you said, if you finally come to realization how much it's inside you, right? And when do you come to terms with it? Like, do you start focusing on it now more than before?
I recognize a lot of different things, including like symptoms of, the mania and the depression. I recognize my actions towards myself and other people. I'm way more aware of it than I ever have been.
Yeah, and that's powerful. But one of the hardest things, right? You know, I went through my anxiety and depression was not realizing how we treat others around us, right? And you just think like, oh, I'm okay, and then that's like the number one excuse. I'm okay. And then you look back, right? And you see it and you're like, oh shit, I had an argument or I was an asshole or I was a dickhead. And you're like, that's all on me, right? So when you get a grip of your mental health, it's almost like, okay, I tell people you snatch it, right? You first time you finally snatch it and you realize it, right? That you have the power. That that mental health doesn't have the power over you. You have the power over it. And it's tough. But, some of us don't get to that point where we're able to grab it and grasp it and handle it because life is so quick and fast.
Yeah.
So take us back through your journey, right, of getting diagnosed with bipolar. What did it look like when you were younger, when doctors were telling you all the other things that you had, or they thought you had, ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD, and how frustrating that was?
So I think the most frustrating part about a mood disorder is how long it takes for them to diagnose you. Typically, it's about age 18 is where they can even think about anything from bipolar to schizophrenia and any type of mood disorder. When I was younger, it looked more like ADHD. I was middle child. I was a loud kid. I still get those ADHD symptoms.
Whoop, whoop, middle child.
Middle child in the house. But it all looked very different throughout different stages of my life. When I was younger and I was starting therapy for ADHD and trying to control that, especially being in like the school setting. And then it looked more like OCD and insomnia and making sure everything was right. And then towards the end of middle school and high school, it looked more like depression, clinical depression and anxiety. And when I was 14, I had like the official neuropsych done, which showed OCD, ADHD, PTSD, depression, anxiety. And it wasn't until just a couple years ago that I got the bipolar diagnosis.
And for you, right, what was it like? What was it like when the doctor finally told you that there was, a clinical name to what you were suffering, what you were going through, right? Because I say it to people, and I mince the words there with suffering, right? Because it's not suffering. You get to, it's living with it, right? Not suffering, but living with it, right? So when the doctor comes in and tells you, how do you feel at that point? And you finally like, oh shit, like, hey, I know what I got now.
Yeah, I think it was hard with my diagnosis specifically, just because I have that kind of sigh of relief where you can identify it and figure it out and get the right medications and manage it. But I have unspecified bipolar. So I have two different sides of it. They can't put me in a category. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, this is a little difficult to still understand because you guys aren't telling me it's bipolar 1, bipolar 2. It's just unspecified just because of these ups and downs and how intense bipolar can actually be.
Yeah, I've had some guests on that talk about it, right? And so explain people, right? Sometimes when you're going through it, right? When you're going through, I think they say an episode, right? When you're going through that, what is it like? And how do you feel when you're in that moment, right? I know you've mentioned staying up all night, pushing through, going to work, going to school. What is that like? Like, what are you doing all night long while you're up?
So in a manic episode, the way I put it is if I'm in a depressive episode, I'm sleeping all day. If I'm in a manic episode, I'm not sleeping at all. So in a manic episode, when I get really bad insomnia, it can look like anything. It can look like spending a lot of money, online shopping, spending the whole night blowing my entire paycheck. It can look like impulsive decisions, texting and calling people I haven't talked to in years, or going on a drive to a different state just because I can't sleep. It can look like rearranging my entire room just because I feel like it and I have the energy to. It could look like starting a new hobby at 3 a.m. just because I thought about it. It's intense.
Yeah, and for someone like, what would you say to, and I know you're so young, right? But I think it's crucial that for any parents, right, that are going to be listening to this, whose kids are 12, 13, 14, right? And they can't be diagnosed and they may have the symptoms of being bipolar, right? What would you tell the parents?
Just to be as patient as you possibly can. At least for me, communication in an episode or just in general has always been pretty hard. And patience is key. Let them come to you. Keep an eye on them, check in on them, but let them come to you. Let them make those initial conversations.
Yeah. So for the parents out there, don't bring it up. Like, don't, jump on top of them and
Don't use it against them. Don't use, once they get that diagnosis, even before the diagnosis, don't use it against them. If they're telling you they can't get out of bed, they can't get out of bed.
yeah,
If
let them stay in
they've
bed.
been up all night, they've been up all night.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, that's one of the biggest things because I think now with, mental health, there's so much that's going on out there where I know you had mentioned, I think you can't get diagnosed with it until 18, which, I mean, there has to be a science or a reasoning behind it, but they should be able to, instead of, throwing all those ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD at the wall at you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could say, this is what it could be. So keep your eyes open and, check in 6 months, check in 8 months. So did you ever have any stays in behavioral health facilities? And if so, what were they like?
Yeah, I did. I had quite a few. I'll kind of put it into two different categories. So when you look at behavioral health facilities, you have inpatient and outpatient programs. Inpatient is like a residential stay. And outpatient is you're basically just not sleeping there. I had a couple of outpatient visits. Those seem a little bit more reasonable and it gives somebody when the time is appropriate to have that kind of leeway to do it yourself. Those type of programs just didn't work for me. It's all in a group setting. You're basically just kind of like sitting there talking, doing group activities, group therapies, different activities. Those weren't the worst you've ever seen, but I don't think they're helpful for a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of different experiences with them. Inpatient facilities are basically where you're staying there. And those are they're two opposite facilities. Inpatient is or can be aggressive. The booty shot in one, and it made me pass out.
How old were you then?
I was 14 going on. Yep.
And who took you there? Was that your choice? Or you went to the doctors or the hospital and then they said,
So anytime that I've been inpatient, I have been sectioned, which basically means you told somebody something's up. They have to send you to the emergency department. The first time I was ever sectioned, I was in the emergency department for 8 days. And then I found a bed and was in the inpatient facility for, I want to say, about a month.
okay.
And let
So
me
what-
tell you, the ER is the ER is something else too. They have no idea what they're doing.
So have you ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? The movie with Jack Nicholson, and it's about a mental asylum, and it's pretty cool because I was going to ask you if it was anything like that, if Nurse Ratched was there. But so did those behavioral health facilities, did they help you at all, or did they hurt you in ways that nobody can understand?
I think there's aspects to it where, I mean, I still use a lot of coping mechanisms to this day. I use the rubber band method or the frozen orange method or taking a hot shower or making sure I'm not listening to sad music. I also still have a sticky note hanging on my wall from one of the nurses. And like moments like that where like, okay, this is helping. And then there's some days where it's almost like exactly how you see it in movies. People are yelling, people are screaming, even in a child's unit. Like you
So there's
still
no sleep, nothing.
see the adults, you have people in your room, like it's, and I know I personally did this, and I know a lot of many other teenagers do this, where you kind of get to that point where you just want to go home and lay in your own bed and shower without being watched and not be in a room with another person and not have the door open and just be comfortable and be outside. And so you get to that point where you're just like, I'm better.
Yeah,
They
you
go,
just throw your hands up and time to go home.
yeah, I'm better. I'm good.
Yeah, but that must be tough, right? Going to one of those with, sitting around a group in a group setting and, especially at a young age, people fully given their, thoughts and their feelings
And their stories. I mean,
and this,
the
yeah.
stories I've heard in there too. I feel bad because I'm like, wow, I don't have it as bad as I thought I did.
Yeah,
And then that
exactly.
like sends you into that cycle of like degrading yourself because you're in such this big group setting where you hear everybody else's stories and you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be in here.
Yeah. I had a unbelievable lady on Yvette Murray. She is an author of The Mental Health Contagion, and she wrote a book. She's up in Canada. And she was saying the one big thing when it comes to mental health, right, is what we have to do is we have to live our own journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't compare it to others. Like, hey, this one has bipolar, but he does this or he does that. And she's like, everyone's journey is unique, right?
Yep.
And the person that's dealing with it is going to find the ways they cope with it, they deal with it, and others, it may not work for them. For some, a group setting may work, right? But for me, I know that a group setting never worked for me because I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk to my therapist, never mind tell anybody about my feelings, right? Till probably like 10 months ago where I started talking about my feelings and how I really feel. And it's strong because a young girl like you that's able to do it now at such a young age, right? It's powerful because I started at 41.
Mm-hmm.
You're 21, you're 20 years. I'm 20 years behind you when it comes to finding out, right? Of it's okay, right? It's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to tell people about your feelings, but it's also okay to let people know what you have, right? And say, hey, just because I have bipolar, it doesn't make me a monster under the bed, right? Like the movies show you, all bipolar people are crazy, right? No, I'm functioning. I'm a full-time college student. I'm a full-time worker. So that gets me to the next question, right? As a full-time college student, full-time worker, how do you balance exams, shifts, and bipolar symptoms on the same day without falling apart?
This has only been the past couple of months, but it's basically just I've learned a lot. And the biggest thing I can say is choose discipline over motivation. You have to discipline yourself with certain mental illnesses because 95% of days you're not going to have the motivation to get out of bed. You are either manic and you want to go drive to another state and you want to fuck around and find out, or you want to go sit in bed all day.
Yeah. And is that one of the things you tell people? You know, that's okay. That is people that are suffering from bipolar, right? It's okay to, if you want to take the day off, take a mental health day. Is that a good idea? As long as it doesn't string into 2, 3, 4, 5 days, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
One day's fine. Take a break. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. I think everybody, whether you have diagnoses or not, I think everybody needs a mental health day.
No doubt about it. You know, and that's one thing that people don't. I say it here in the West, right? In the United States, especially in North America, we don't, like over in Europe, they have like 6-hour days and they have a 2-hour lunch and they have so many things that are different, right? Where you're able to take care of yourself. And that's one of the biggest things I've found with my mental health challenges was I would always try to fix everybody, right? Fix everybody. I could fix the world, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm like losing an arm, right? Figuratively, not, not literally, but figuratively, I'm losing an arm. I'm losing a friggin' leg. I'm
Mhm.
falling apart, right? But I'm trying to take care of everybody else, right? Until I finally found that, hey, you know what? I can't help anyone else out until I'm 100% ready and there physically, mentally, and emotionally, right?
I mean,
And
it's the
and
same
it's
thing. When the plane's crashing, you put your oxygen mask on first, and then
yeah, yep, yeah. You gotta do it for yourself first before you do it to others, and that's one of the big things that a lot of people that come on with the mental health talk about, and it's powerful, and it's such a simple idea, right? When you hear it, and when you're on the plane, I don't think anybody hears it because you're like, yeah, going on vacation, I'm getting the hell out of here, right? And you're not paying attention. But when they say you got to put your mask on first, because I say it all the time. Like a year ago, if I was on a plane with somebody and the mask came down, I'd be trying to shove it on them first, like not worried about myself. It's one of the biggest things. So, what's one symptom, right, of bipolar that people romanticize in movies, but is actually terrifying when it's happening in your own house?
I'd say I have a few things, but I would say a symptom specifically would be mania as a whole. They kind of like glorify it when really, like, I'm going to go spend a bunch of money and I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that and I'm on top of the world, when really it's like you're still not in your own body. And it can be very scary. I mean, when I had my first manic episode and I didn't even know until after the fact, it was like, "Whoa, guys, that wasn't me." Like,
Yeah,
that
like an out of body experience.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was aggressive. But I think another thing too that's not necessarily related to symptoms would be just, like, depression as a whole or self-harm or anything like that, where sometimes you see TV shows of, like, teenage girls, and it's like it's almost like they're promoting these types of behaviors, whether it's drugs, whether it's self-harm, whether it's sex. Those can
yeah,
all be self-injurious behaviors, and it sometimes just seems like they're like, "This is good. This is the best thing ever."
yeah. Like this is how we should do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's frustrating, right? That you say that because one of the things you did say is you always see it in TV shows and all that, right? It's always young girls that are depressed, right? They never show a boy. They never
No.
show a man depressed, right? They can't be depressed. We're too strong for that.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about it because we're too strong and we have feelings, but we're so strong that we're not going to tell anybody. And that's one of the biggest things I have on my podcast is letting people know, right? Especially guys, it's okay not to be okay. It
100.
really is, right? But with that comes making sure you connect with somebody, whether it's your wife, your husband, your partner, your cousin, your mother, your father, whoever it may be. And if you can't, right, and you don't feel comfortable enough, I've used it myself many times and it's been a lifeline for me. 988. Someone will always text you. And it's a powerful thing here to have in the States because I've used it, not recently, a couple months back, 5, 6 months back, but 3 o'clock in the morning, right? I wake up. I got nobody to talk to. I'm just, not feeling right. I know something's wrong. I know what's wrong. And hey, texted them. Next thing you know, they're like, hey, can we call you? Boom. Next thing you know, 45 minutes later, I'm back in bed, relaxed, calm down, glad I spoke to them. But that's one big thing that people need to realize that you're not in this alone. So you live with bipolar, right? What's the hardest part about being young in school and trying to explain to professors or bosses why some days you just can't get out of bed?
I think at least I personally think I do a really good job at explaining it. I think it's just hard for people to still kind of wrap their heads around mental illness as a whole. That if I say I cannot physically get out of bed this morning, that they're just kind of like, but why? Like, it's more of like the why, the not understanding part that can be really complicated to relay.
Yeah. And you just, because you got to understand, right? In college, that's probably like the number one excuse to, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying excuse, but I'm just saying that kids come up with where it's like, hey, I can't get out of bed today, right? And one thing you did mention, depression, right? I think people need to realize too, depression's real, right? Whether you want to believe it or not, some people, walk around, they're sad, they're doom and gloom and gloomy, and it's real, right? So I tell people, if you see people like that, just ask them, hey, how you doing today? Very good to see you. And be open, right? Be open to it, to being able to maybe hold the door for somebody, right? Because you never know what somebody's going through.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. That a vet was saying it last week, was the biggest thing that I took away from her was, don't try to walk a day in my shoes, right? Walk alongside with me in this journey, right? And I
Yep.
think that's powerful because we need to walk alongside each other, right? Pick each other up when we fall. Be supportive. Be there, because too many
Just be
times people
kind
aren't.
to everybody. Everyone just needs to be kind to each other.
That's it. It's so simple, but it doesn't help when we have, I say this quite often, it doesn't help when we have a man in the White House who's a narcissist and gets on TV every night and shows the world that it's okay to be a narcissist and it's okay to act that way. And you see it more and more now with people acting that way just because he does. And he's supposed to be the president and lead by example, and he sure as hell doesn't.
Period.
So how did your dad's mental health battles change the way you saw your own future? Did it scare you or actually give you strength?
I think it scared me at first. When he had first passed away, I stopped taking all my medication and I stopped going to therapy. So a couple months after, I started with a new psychiatrist, and he was basically like, "You're a ticking time bomb." I didn't understand, so I asked him to explain. I am a 20 or 19 at the time, 18. I'm a young woman with bipolar. I'm like the number one person to commit suicide. So then he literally said ticking time bomb, and I was like, okay, well, shit. But it finally got to that point where, and this was only pretty recently, where it actually started to give me strength. And it's not, I don't necessarily mean this in a bad way, but I don't want to end up killing myself. I don't want
Yeah.
to end up like that. I don't want my family to go through that again. But I also have gotten to the point where I don't want to do that to myself anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, it started to give you,
It does. It gives you strength.
yeah.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Believe me, because it's one of those things, right? And I don't condone this, right? But when my father died, I did the same exact thing. I came off all my meds. I was like, I'm good. I don't need this
recommend
shit.
it to anybody listening.
I don't recommend it either.
Gotta do
But
what
I'm
you
saying
have to do.
I don't recommend it, but I did the same thing. And then it was literally like 6 months later where I was like, oh shit, I got to call my therapist and check in. And so I do. And he's like, hey, Mr. Leary, you haven't had picked up your meds in 6 months. And I go, yeah, I haven't had them. And he go, you need to come in. So I do. And next thing I know, I'm on like 4 different meds. He's like, I don't know why you did that. Or I thought that was the right decision. And I go, well, sometimes in life you have to learn, right? But I don't, it was almost a year ago, the same thing where I just stopped taking my meds and I was like, I literally felt like $1,000,000.
Yep.
But I don't know what clicked, but something clicked where I was like, now we got to go back to the therapist. And back on the meds, because I am working now to try to come off of them, because I don't, with depression and anxiety, you don't have to be on them if you can deal with it, right? If you're able to. So I'm going to try. I'm talking to my doctor, my therapist, and trying to come down off the meds and wean myself down. So we'll see what happens with that. But so you're writing a book, right, of poems on grief while still grieving your dad. So which poem in the book hurt the most to write and why?
I'm gonna have to pull some poems. I didn't know we were talking about the book. Yay. I think, real quick, I think the hardest thing in general while grieving my dad and writing a book about grief is how genuinely hard it is. I think the last time I was on here, we were promoting the book,
Yeah.
and then I just completely just wiped everything.
Yeah.
I
And
deleted
that's,
social media. I stopped writing for a while, but we're getting back into it. Let's take a gander. Am I reading a poem?
yeah, you're going to read one for us. You're going to give the fans.
Alrighty, guys. This is like my first time publicly saying any of my poems, so this is interesting. So I'm going to read it first and then I'm going to explain it. Your last
Perfect.
days you reached out to me, your angsty teenage daughter couldn't see the pain you were in and what you suffered through. You said we may disagree on this. Just know I still love you. A few days went by. I had left you on red, not knowing the day I responded, you'd be dead. So I hope you know I love you too. I just wish I said it one more time, even though you already knew. That is the most accurate poem I have written. That in there is an actual text he had sent me probably a couple weeks before, and I still wasn't processing. He's dealing with mental health issues. He's struggling. I didn't process that. He texted me the morning that the day that he passed, asking me about college and stuff, and I gave him a response. He didn't respond for me the rest of the day. That night, he was dead. So that one is definitely my favorite, but also my realist
Yeah.
poem.
Yeah. And the hottest one, too, you know, because you probably look back and, you look through the old text, you look through the photos.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's been gone 16 years and I still, I still go back and look at photos and I still tear up. I still, it's not easy. It's even for me, people kept saying to me like, oh, we'll get easy. It the fucking doesn't get easy. You know what I mean? It
No,
doesn't
it
get,
will never. And there was so much more that happened in regards to my father's death
yeah,
than just him committing suicide. And I think that on top of it has made it 10 times harder. And not being able to find peace, it's kind of like, okay, so like when does this get easier?
yeah. And it thrust all you kids, right? All your siblings into a place where now you guys had to deal with your dad's estate, and that's something that, no kid should ever go through. Never mind having to go through the issues and the problems that you guys still have to go through
Still,
almost 3 years later.
I was going to say 2.5 years later.
Yeah, and it's just frustrating. So what's the biggest myth, right, about bipolar that you wish every college student, every coworker, and every family member would stop believing?
I wouldn't say like bipolar, but I would just say like mental health as a whole. I think like the myths are basically just that it's not real. You hear people talk about mental health or bipolar or depression or anything, and they just kind of like talk about it like it's not a real thing. That's a myth. It is very real. People struggle every single day.
Yeah.
It's a
So
lot.
what's one of the things you would tell people, right? Because I hear it all the time. And what's one of your like biggest pet peeves when it comes to your mental health with family members or friends, right? And they may say something snappy or snippy, right? Or something that they may say, right? That they think they're trying to help, but they're really not, right? One of my biggest things is, did you take your meds?
Yes, that is
You know?
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Have
And there's,
you taken your meds? Did you take your meds? Have you been taking your meds recently? Did you sleep last night? Are you manic? Are you depressed? Are you this? Are you that? It's like I wish you didn't even know about my diagnosis because then you wouldn't have the excuse to talk to me.
well, because sometimes people need to realize we do have, everyone has mental health. I don't care what anyone says. But one of the things that I say is that people need to realize that there's no reason someone that's going through it, right, that we can't just have a bad day. And it's not because of our mental health. We may have went to work, right, and it was raining out and we got soaked, right, and our clothes got soaked and we don't have an extra shirt for work. And we stepped in a puddle and now our feet are wet, right? You could have just had a bad day.
My shoe could not fit right, and
Yeah.
I'd like be thrown off. But then it's
Yeah,
like, oh my god, have you been taking your meds? Oh, what's going on?
exactly. That's the biggest thing for me too, was
Those are my big
did you
ones.
take your meds, right? So when I didn't take my meds for like 6 months, 8 months, it felt good because people didn't ask me if I took my meds because I didn't give a fuck, and I would just keep walking by them. They'd be like, "Hey, no, I don't want to talk. I'm just moving by." Like I was very like I had blinders on when I don't take my meds. I have blinders on where I'm either focused on work or I'm focused on like a vacation coming up or getting away. And people that are not in my life that I may have friends around or whatever. I don't even pay attention. I could be sitting there having a conversation. I'm like, all right, we're done. Let's go. I'm out of here. Like, I don't. So your dad's story, right, is now part of yours. What's the one memory of him during his battle with mental health that still makes you smile through the tears?
I think just the little things mean the most now. So my parents were divorced at the time of his death, but they got divorced for like so many other reasons. And it was weird because, you say your parents are divorced and you see how much they still love each other so many years later.
Yeah.
But yes, they were divorced at the time of his death. And So we would go to this house like every other weekend or however the arrangement worked. And it would just kind of be like, all right, we're going to sit around. We're going to listen to our 50s playlist. We're going to play Sorry. We're going to play Pontoon. We're going to play all these card games. And then might have a bite to eat, maybe some cookies that he grabs. The elf fudge
Yeah.
cookies. The actual were the ones. Fudge stripes, those are also the ones. And just like hang out.
Yeah.
Those are the nights that mean the most to me now. Or just like our camping trips too. He was a big outdoors guy. He wanted to go far, far away from everybody. So he definitely got me my music, my camping, my sense of adventure. He loved the beach. Like,
He would love to camp, right? And sit there with the guitar, right? Have a couple
yeah.
drinks and just live his best life. And a
Yeah,
Dorchester guy,
I was
Dorchester guy, you would never think, right?
I know. He like looked like he came out of Margaritaville.
I hear it all the time, right? The biggest thing I hear, you guys say and your mom does is he hated to wear shoes.
Yeah, I mean, he never wore shoes. And if it was snowing outside, he put on his Timbs, but he'd be wearing shorts and no shirt.
So when you were first diagnosed, right, what was the scariest question you asked yourself in the mirror?
Am I gonna live? Straight up. Am I gonna survive this? Am I gonna live to see 18? Okay, I live to see 18. Okay, am I gonna live to see 19? Okay, I live to see that. Okay, am I gonna live to see 25? 30? Am I gonna ever have kids? Am I ever gonna do this? Am I ever gonna do that? Just those days where it's like, okay, is this survivable, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. Is this real?
Yes.
Right. Because I can only imagine getting that, right? When you go in and the doctor says you have bipolar, right? And you're a kid,
Mhm.
so you're probably like all of us, right? You go to your phone and it's like you're gonna die in 2 days.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
I
I
mean,
still do. I still do it.
talk about it too. I mean, like a doctor literally told me I was a ticking time bomb, and then I just have to be like, okay,
Yeah, and you're a kid.
what
Him telling you that.
exactly? I was
You know?
had just turned 18 years old.
Yeah. And that's crazy to think, you're sitting there, they come in and he just tells you, you're a ticking time bomb. And it's like, you're like, what? You got to explain that to me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a kid. What does that mean? And it can be tough. Mental health can be a wide range of things, right? You can see somebody every day who can have a smile on their face, present themselves to be happy, and they go home and they just fall asleep. They go to bed, they get up in the morning and they do the same thing like Groundhog Day and they keep doing it and keep doing it. But people, like I said, I think people need to, like you said too, people just need to be more kind to each other and just don't realize that you don't know what people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, So what did your dad teach you about living with mental health that no doctor or textbook ever could?
I feel like it would just be like, just do whatever the hell you want to do. He did not
Yeah.
give a fuck about anything. If he wanted to go camping, he was going camping by himself. If he wanted to do, I don't know, anything, he was just like, I have my plan. I know what I'm doing. Screw everybody else. I got this. And it's like, okay. So there are the good days. There are the days where you have this motivation and you have this like joy in you to just do what you want to do.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Pick up the tent if you want to, head up north, or pick up your swimming trunks or bathing suit and head down to the Cape. Do what you want, right? Do what makes you happy.
Exactly. And
So
if
go ahead.
if those like made him happy, there's things that I can do to make myself happy. It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be the same exact thing. It's just kind of like, do whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? That he showed you, right? Even though, his was camping and campfires and guitar and singing, right? And writing. And, that doesn't mean that needs to be your outlet, right? But your own, your own. But what makes you happy, right? Because you look at it and you talk about camping with dad and going to have fun. And that was his happy place.
Yep.
Getting away from, far away from civilization as many people and having fun.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I'm agreeing with you. Don't worry.
So grief, right? Grief and bipolar together.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when a wave of sadness is grief for your dad versus a depressive episode of your own illness?
I think when you look at bipolar, you have to look about like how long it lasts, which like kind of sucks because you don't really know. I mean, I could be depressed and then think about him and that makes me more depressed, or I can be like vice versa.
Yeah.
Be thinking about him and it puts me into a depressive episode. So it's very hard to like put it into their own categories, I guess.
So bipolar, right? It can put you into a depressive episode and a manic episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how long do you know now after having it for a few years now, like how much longer, like say you're going through an episode, how much longer it's going to last? Or
Oof.
No. What's the longest it's lasted, an episode?
My manic episode lasted 2 months.
2
1.5
months.
months. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
the summer of 2024.
And how much did you sleep during that summer?
Probably 0 hours. I mean, I went to college for 24 hours and didn't sleep and drove to New Hampshire. I mean, like,
I bet you had a clean room though.
yeah, it was
Organized it 7 different
everything was
times and
organized, but
yeah.
my brain wasn't organized. And then that end of that summer was the last time I was hospitalized. And I was able to check myself out at that point, and I said, I am not going back there.
Nope. As an adult, unless I really need to, I will
Mhm.
not be back, right? Because at that point, right, you can grab the mental health, right? Now you can know the symptoms and what's going on and how to calm yourself down and how to try to come out of the episode, right, as best as you can. So with you being a fierce advocate at such a young age, right, what's the one conversation you wish every parent of a newly diagnosed bipolar child would have with their son or daughter?
Just let them know you're there and try to understand them as best as possible. Whether it comes off as sad, whether it comes off as angry, just really try to understand what this illness actually means for them.
Yeah. And what about just holding space for them, right? Just let them
Exactly.
talk.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've found one of my hardest things was, a year ago, I would have a conversation. I have to make sure I get my point across and make sure that I'm not listening to what anybody else says, right? That was one of my things in my anxiety and depression. My
Yep.
anxiety was so bad that I had to stress my point 1,017 times, where the point where the conversation would start with us disagreeing to us agreeing and then to us disagreeing again because I wouldn't stop and I just
Mhm.
kept going, right? And my
Yep.
anxiety, like, I tell people all the time when my anxiety is like really bad, I have to repeat myself 17 different times and 20 different times. But now I got medication, so I don't have to repeat myself.
There you go.
So what's the darkest thought, right, bipolar, ever handed you? And how did you survive it while still showing up for class and work?
Probably just kill yourself. Like, as like crazy as it sounds, it's like, okay, just like go jump off a cliff.
Just end it.
Go drive into a wall.
Yeah.
Just go 120 down the highway. Like those moments where you're like, whoa.
Yeah. You look back at it and you say to yourself,
Think about that.
and I think people don't realize, right? You have so much pain, right, that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a physical pain. It's in your head, and it could be, that you just want to stop, right? You just want it to stop. You just want it to go away, and you can try everything. You can try coping mechanisms, and sometimes it doesn't, right? And that's the biggest thing I tell people. So if you are feeling that and you do have that thought, reach out to somebody, speak with somebody, and if not 988, call or text, because that's one of the biggest things. So your poetry book is coming soon, right? What do you hope a reader who's lost a parent to mental illness feels when they close the last page?
Like I've said before, if just one person knows that I know how they feel and they see that or read that sense of understanding and they can connect with it, my job is complete.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just be able to know that there's someone else out there that understands what they are going through and just grief as a whole. It doesn't even have to be someone that committed suicide, just grief as a whole. Understanding, okay, there's other people that are going through the same thing and I feel okay after and at peace after reading this book.
Yeah. So 2 more questions before we end, right? So looking back at your dad's journey and your own, what's the one thing you would change about how society treats bipolar diagnosis and mental health?
I still just people say it all the time. I still think there's a stigma and there always will be a stigma around mental health, especially for men.
Yeah,
And
it's the worst.
I wish there was more of an understanding, and I regret not understanding where he was coming from, or at least trying to understand where he was coming from. But also just like society around us. Men struggle too. And it's okay to say, hey, I'm struggling. But
Yeah.
those are
It's
like,
okay. It's
yeah.
okay to say, it's okay to tell people you're not okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Don't hold it in, right? And he said that's what people do with their anxiety, their depression, their mental health. They push it down and push it down and push it down, right, till they explode. And sometimes it ends in suicide. Sometimes it ends in hospitalization. Sometimes it ends with consequences we don't want to deal with, right? And for anyone going, suffering through that feels like they don't have anybody they could talk to again, they can reach out to me. You guys on my platform know where to find me, and you can call 988. So last one, Megan, right? For every listener right now who's either living with bipolar, watching a parent fight mental health, or grieving someone it took, what do you want them to hear from a daughter who's still standing?
If you are struggling with bipolar, please know that you can manage it. There will be a point where you can manage it correctly, where everything will be okay. If you're watching a parent struggle with mental health issues, try to understand them and help them a little bit. But also, if that's affecting you negatively, set the boundaries. Set the boundaries for yourself and your own mental well being, but make sure that they're okay too. And if you're grieving a parent, there's other people too that are in the same position as you.
Perfect. So
Everything
Megan
will be
Sullivan.
okay. Everything will be okay, guys. I promise.
So Megan Sullivan, you just walked in the room carrying grief, bipolar, school books, work schedules, and a book of poems. And you laid it all on the table with courage most people never find in a lifetime. You didn't come here for sympathy. You came here to say, I survived. You can too. And family, if you're listening with tears in your eyes right now, know this. You just heard from a warrior who's still writing her story while the ink is still wet with pain. To every college kid fighting bipolar in silence, every worker hiding symptoms behind a smile, every son or daughter who lost a parent to this illness, Megan just handed you proof that your pain can become poetry, your scars can become strength, and your voice can become the light someone else needs. Listeners, I need you to do 3 things right now. 1, screenshot this episode and send it to someone who needs to hear they're not broken. 2, pre-order Megan's book of poems the second it drops, and I will let all you know when it does, because you better go buy it, because Uncle Jimmy says so. Because grief needs art like this. 3, look in the mirror and say out loud, I am still here, I am still fighting, and I am enough. Megan, thank you for trusting us with your dad's story, your own story, and your beautiful beating heart. You didn't just speak today, you healed. Family, mental health is heavy, but we carry it together. If you're struggling, reach out. If you're watching someone struggle, reach in. You are never alone. This is Uncle Jimmy, signing off with a full heart and open arms. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Megan.
Bye, guys. You're enough.